Chapter 159. Deep inside the World Tree Blessing. The gigantic first seed chamber radiated terrifying golden pressure. Ancient runes floated endlessly around the massive unopened bud. Tony stood before the colossal structure as primordial life aura pressed against his body from every direction. The closer he stepped, the stronger his transformed spinal tree core reacted. Golden dragon veins beneath his skin faintly glowed. Beside him, the spirit turned, her expression growing serious. "You must leave now." Tony frowned. "So fast?" The spirit looked upward toward the golden sky. The unfinished realm trembled. Distant floating islands shifted unnaturally. Unstable spatial cracks spread through the air. Giant life rivers flowed with increasing violence. "Your transformation," the spirit continued, her voice soft, "and my awakening, already disturbed the pre-bloom balance." Tony's expression shifted. "Meaning?" The world tree noticed us. Silence hung between them. Tony looked toward the gigantic first seed chamber. The unopened golden bud emitted a heavier pressure than before, as if something inside had begun to wake. The spirit floated backward. "If you remain longer, the outer guardians may detect abnormalities." Tony clicked his tongue. He wanted to explore more. This place held too many secrets. Ancient murals, hidden paths, future seed locations. Perhaps even more terrifying things lay deeper inside. Still, he possessed enough sense to recognize danger. He had already gained enormous advantages. Hidden roots, future seed locations, the Dragon Lord transformation, World Tree map knowledge, a spirit alliance. That alone amounted to heaven-defying luck. The spirit watched him. "You can return later, after the bloom begins." Tony nodded. "Fine." He studied her carefully. "What should I call you?" The spirit remained silent for a beat, then answered softly, "Nora." Tony raised his brows. A simple name for someone speaking about immortality. Nora gave a faint smile. "My creator hated complicated titles." Tony stored that detail in his mind. Nora raised one hand, and the surrounding world tree roots trembled. Ancient runes spread across the crystal ground beneath Tony's feet. "I will send you near the outer bloom barrier. After that, survive by yourself." Tony grinned. "That part I'm good at." Nora shook her head. Overconfidence kills faster than enemies. Before Tony could reply, golden light exploded beneath his feet. Ancient root tunnels moved like living serpents. The world tree shifted pathways. Tony braced himself as the surroundings blurred. Outside the world tree barrier, the Pacific Ocean region remained heavily fortified. Warships hovered above the skies. Octopus Organization patrol formations scanned the ocean surface. Supreme warriors floated across the air, and formation masters monitored the gigantic golden bloom barrier. Everything remained stable until a shockwave erupted from inside the world tree blessing. The golden barrier trembled. Supreme warriors turned their heads. What happened? The barrier moved? The ocean erupted beneath the pressure wave. Massive tides surged in every direction. Several floating formations shattered. Inside the central monitoring zone, dozens of formation masters turned pale. The internal energy flow changed suddenly. Impossible. The bloom pulse accelerated. Chaos spread across the restricted region. More warships rushed toward the perimeter. Supreme warriors released aura pressure to monitor the unstable barrier. Then, cracks spread across portions of the outer golden barrier. Silence followed, then uproar. The barrier cracked? How is that possible? Did someone attack it? Check all perimeter formations immediately. The Octopus Organization entered an emergency state. Ancestor Long appeared above the ocean skies, his aura suppressing the chaotic atmosphere. "What happened?" he asked coldly. Several formation masters knelt. "We don't know, Senior Long." There was no external attack detected. The energy fluctuation originated from inside the world tree itself. Long's expression grew serious. More supreme warriors gathered near the cracked barrier. Members of the demonic sea tribe appeared from the ocean, looking shocked. One old formation master examined the fluctuating barrier. His expression changed. "Impossible." Nearby supremes turned toward him. "What?" The old formation master swallowed heavily. "The bloom cycle, it accelerated." Silence spread. Another formation master recalculated several floating energy arrays. His face turned pale. No mistake. The world tree blessing flowering time changed. Ancestor Long narrowed his eyes. "How many days?" The formation master's hands trembled while observing the calculations. Previously, the estimated bloom time was 13 days. But now, only 9 days remain. The surrounding ocean atmosphere exploded into chaos. What? 4 days earlier? How can bloom timing suddenly change? Did something happen inside? Even the supreme warriors looked shocked. This should not happen naturally. Far beneath the ocean, Tony stumbled forward from a giant root tunnel as the golden light faded. Nora's voice echoed one final time in his consciousness. "Remember, the first seed chamber awakens first." Someone else already knows that. Before Tony could ask further, silence returned. Nora had hidden herself again inside the system. Then, a shockwave erupted above the ocean. Tony looked upward. Even underwater, he felt the world tree barrier trembling. Tony's expression became strange. "Don't tell me." Chapter 160. Far above the Pacific Ocean, the atmosphere descended into complete chaos. The gigantic golden world tree barrier trembled violently, while cracks spread across portions of the outer bloom shell. Supreme warriors hovered across the skies with expressions of irritation. Formation masters rushed around nervously, and countless floating calculation arrays rotated continuously above the ocean surface. Nobody understood what had happened, but everyone grasped one terrifying fact. The world tree blessing was blooming earlier. 4 entire days earlier, deep beneath the ocean currents, Tony stabilized himself near the massive golden stalk, watching the chaos above through the surface of the water. Dozens of terrifying supreme auras swept across the region repeatedly. The octopus organization had entered emergency mode. Tony frowned as the realization settled in. This has become troublesome, he muttered. He had expected several more peaceful days before the world tree became unstable, but now, everything accelerated. Suddenly, a familiar sea aura approached rapidly through the water. The old demonic sea tribe woman appeared beside Tony, her face tight with tension. "What did you do in there?" she demanded. Tony blinked. "Why are you asking me?" The old woman growled, her frustration evident. The entire barrier shook. The bloom timing changed. Even the Supreme Guardians became alarmed. She stared at Tony with suspicion. "You seriously did nothing?" Tony maintained a calm expression. "I only entered and came out." That part technically wasn't a lie. The old sea woman stared at him for several moments before clicking her tongue in annoyance. "Forget it. We need to leave immediately before the ocean gets fully sealed." She grabbed Tony's arm without wasting time. They descended deeper into the ocean currents together. Above the Pacific skies, Ancestor Long observed the trembling world tree barrier with a grave expression. Beside him, several octopus house masters discussed the situation with urgency. "This acceleration makes no sense," one master noted. "Could the world tree detect something?" Another asked. "No external intrusion was found," a third replied. "Then why did the bloom cycle suddenly change?" The atmosphere became heavy. Third House Master Bellard offered a cold directive. He told the warriors to seal the entire surrounding region immediately. No unauthorized movement. No hidden approaches. No exceptions. Several supreme warriors nodded. The demonic sea tribe representatives looked displeased by the order. One sea elder offered a cold reply. "The ocean does not belong to the octopus organization." Bellard glared back, his eyes sharp. "And the world tree doesn't belong to your tribe either." The atmosphere turned tense again. Ancestor Long interrupted the standoff. "Enough." He narrowed his old eyes toward the trembling golden barrier. Something changed inside. Silence followed. Even the sea tribe elders turned serious. If the internal pre-bloom state had truly changed, this world tree blessing might become far more dangerous than previous generations. Back inside Nine Lotus Academy, the campus exploded into chaos after the official emergency announcement spread. Huge holographic screens activated throughout the academy skies. The emergency message appeared publicly. The world tree blessing bloom cycle had updated. 9 days remained until the full bloom. Silence spread briefly before an absolute uproar erupted across the academy. 9 days, students shouted. It was 13 before. What happened? Did somebody trigger something? Participants everywhere grew restless. The atmosphere inside the academy changed drastically overnight. Previously, people prepared steadily, but now, the pressure mounted. 4 entire preparation days had vanished. Cultivation markets turned into war zones. Resource prices tripled within hours. Peak Grandmaster breakthrough medicine sold out, and several hidden sects began openly fighting over cultivation resources. One martial forum post spread like wildfire. "The world tree is waking early." The comments beneath the post flooded instantly. "This blessing isn't normal. I heard the barrier cracked. My sect elder said previous blessings never accelerated like this. Something terrifying is happening." Fear began spreading throughout the younger generation. Some registered participants quietly withdrew their names. Inside the Imperial Family Temporary Headquarters, Jamie Smith folded the latest emergency report, his expression growing serious. "This changes everything." Nearby elders nodded nervously. The compressed timeline meant less preparation, less alliance building, and less resource gathering. But for true monsters, this sudden chaos also created opportunity. Inside the Frost family residence, Lily Frost stared toward the updated bloom announcement displayed above the academy sky. An uneasy feeling rose inside her heart, as though something had already started moving beneath the surface. Far beneath the ocean, Tony and the old sea woman returned to the floating Crystal Pod Village region. The moment they emerged from the surface, Supreme Ancestor Lucy Clark appeared nearby. Her expression relaxed after seeing Tony alive, then turned cold again. "You little bastard," she scolded. "Do you know how much chaos happened outside?" Tony coughed awkwardly. "A little." Lucy smacked the back of his head. "Ow," Tony cried out. Lucy narrowed her eyes. "Don't play stupid." Even the bloom timing changed. She stared at him carefully. "Did you really do nothing inside?" Tony remained calm. He knew the world tree acceleration happened after Nora recovered, the primordial energy shifted, and the Dragon Lord transformation awakened. None of that could be explained safely. He sighed. "I really don't know why it changed." Lucy stared at him for several moments, then stopped asking. Deep down, she sensed something strange about Tony. It wasn't visible externally, but his life aura had changed. It felt heavier, ancient, almost like a sleeping beast hiding beneath his skin. Lucy chose not to ask directly. Everyone had secrets, particularly talented monsters. She turned around. We leave immediately. The entire Pacific region will soon become impossible to approach secretly." Tony nodded and took one final glance toward the distant golden world tree barrier. Deep inside the unfinished primordial realm, the gigantic first seed chamber pulsed once beneath endless golden darkness. Somewhere far deeper beyond the visible bloom regions, something ancient opened its eyes. Chapter 161. The journey back to the Clark family was quiet. The flying vehicle cut through the sky at terrifying speed, while Tony sat beside Supreme Ancestor Lucy Clark, staring out the window. Clouds drifted past in a blur. In the past, Lucy would have filled the silence with questions. She had lived for centuries, and she wasn't foolish enough to believe Tony's story completely. The timing was too coincidental. The World Tree blessing had remained stable for years according to historical records. If any other person stood before her, Lucy would have already broken his bones to extract every secret. Tony looked toward her. Yes. Are you all right? He offered a weak smile. Ancestor, your concern touches my heart. He turned his gaze back to the window, wisely choosing to end the conversation. Meanwhile, inside the headquarters of the Octopus organization, dozens of formation masters analyzed the sudden change in the World Tree. The conference hall felt heavy with tension. Ancestor long occupied the highest seat. The room remained silent until an old formation master stood up. We have completed the code analysis. Eyes turned toward him. The previous estimate was 13 days. After the recent fluctuation, only 9 days remain before flowering. The old formation master gestured, and screens filled the air. However, the internal structure has also changed. What do you mean? The old man manipulated the screens to display the internal scans of the World Tree. They looked significantly diminished. Gasps filled the room. Ancestor Long stood with a serious expression. We cannot wait anymore. Release the first round examination details immediately. We must finish the tournament earlier than anticipated. The announcement reached the world within the hour. Martial networks exploded. Discussion forums crashed. Hidden sects gathered for emergency meetings. The official registration count had reached 21,000 participants, and registration remained open. It was the fate of the frontrunners. The Golden Air Tournament, Round 1, took place at the 9 Lotus Academy mountain region. There were 1,000 flags total. The objective was to acquire a flag and place it on the central stage. Only the first 1,000 participants to successfully place a flag would advance. Combat was permitted. Unfortunate deaths were not punishable, but intentional murder was prohibited. Crippling, robbery, and flag theft were allowed. When the rules appeared, chaos erupted online. Many participants withdrew. One famous comment spread through martial networks. Strength alone won't matter. Speed matters. Intelligence matters. Luck matters. Far beneath the ocean, the change in the World Tree bothered Luca. She had lived too long to believe in coincidences. The female warrior who had escorted Tony into the deep sea arrived in the chamber. Luca stared at her. What exactly happened? The woman bowed her head. Nothing unusual, tribe leader. Luca narrowed her eyes. And the woman hesitated. I do not know what happened. He went alone. It might be his doing, but we have no exact details. Luca repeated the last part quietly. Nothing happened? The World Tree accelerated. The barrier cracked. The flowering period shortened. And I am supposed to believe nothing happened. Proof remained elusive. Luca waved her away after a long silence. She sat alone, staring into the distance. Tony Clark, what did you do? She muttered. By the time Tony arrived at the Clark family main residence, the entire family had shifted into preparation mode. Training grounds bustled with activity. Cultivation rooms remained filled. Young geniuses rushed about, and the atmosphere resembled a battlefield camp. Disciples pointed at Tony as he walked through the main gate. Murmurs followed him. Tony returned. He kept walking, ignoring them. A mocking voice cut through the air. Kevin Clark approached, a sword slung over his shoulder. Disciples gathered to watch. Kevin smirked. The famous Tony Clark. I heard you have been wandering around while the rest of us prepared for the tournament. Tony continued walking. Kevin's smile twitched. Tell me, did you finally realize cultivation requires talent? Laughter rippled through the crowd. Tony stopped and turned. Their eyes locked. Kevin froze. A chill traced his spine, and an overwhelming pressure gripped his heart. The sensation vanished as quickly as it appeared. Tony turned and walked away. The disciples looked at Kevin, confused. Kevin, what happened? Kevin stood silent. Something felt wrong, though he could not explain it. Tony reached the inner courtyard. The World Tree would bloom in 9 days. The first round would begin soon, and he had much to do. He entered a secluded cultivation courtyard and activated the isolation sensors. He sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. His transformed spinal tree core shimmered in his consciousness. The Dragon Lord transformation required refinement. Most importantly, he needed to prepare for the hidden heaven-blessed people of the martial world. To be continued. Hope you liked today's video. Join the community by subscribing and dropping a like. I'll be back with another update as soon as possible. See you then.